body of a child. Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Nice.
That's a weird intro. Sorry, we were just talking about where we get our adrenochrome from, and it's the bodies of children. Just kidding. Welcome to the Unusual Suspects podcast. My name is Rob Gargiulo. I'm joined by our usual unusual suspects. We've got Humberto, we've got Brandon, we've got Connor, and you joining us. If this is your first time on the channel, and if you've not done so already, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. That helps boost us in the algorithm, and that'll one day make us MAGA influencers, and then you know what's next, boats and hoes. So make sure you subscribe, like, and comment throughout today's podcast. A ton of great topics coming up for you today, including Trump's federal DC takeover and how that may reopen an investigation into the murder of Seth Rich. We also have Marjorie Taylor Greene calling out AIPAC, and then Matt Gaetz also confirming some odd AIPAC behavior. We're going to talk about the media, the echo chambers that they've created for themselves, and the backlash for anybody that tries to step out of those echo chambers, and more. Do we have merch to sell today? Is there usually then we do the CTA, but there's no
Angry
CTA.
Patriot merch.
Buy Angry Patriot merch. This is not it. This is the VT Flag collection. You can also buy that flag. Let me very clearly pronounce that word. Flag. F-L-A-G. The Flag collection available at VTmerch.com. You can get this snazzy shirt.
Brandon is wearing the other collection.
Yes, that's called...
Which one is that? Why don't you say it?
Oh, the one without the L.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely with the sunglasses and the hat, I could see it. But make sure you get Angry Patriot merch. You get any type of VT merch at VTmerch.com. And all of the guys, I believe, here are on Connect. So if you're on Connect, connect with any of these guys or download the app and connect with one of many experts that are on the app. Vincent Oshana, Patrick Bet-David. Have you heard of him? Tom Ellsworth, all on the Connect app. So go ahead, download it, and connect today. Let's jump into the first story, the CDC Under Attack. This happened on Friday of last week in Atlanta. I'm sorry, the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. There was a shooting by 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White of Kennesaw, Georgia. He opened fire at the CDC headquarters, striking at least 4 buildings with dozens of rounds before being, I believe it was like 151 total shots were fired. That came out this morning.
We actually have video of what that sounded like for all the people who were
So
nearby.
this is actual footage from the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White. They say he's an angry anti-vaxxer who was seeking retribution for lies told to him by the CDC about the COVID vaccine. Here's what it sounds like during the rampage last Friday. That sounds like traffic.
Yeah.
It always surprises me how calm people are when they're filming shootings. I'd be screaming, help! Help! Somebody's shooting! But these people are just like, oh, I'm going to film. First of all, they film like this. Are we fans of filming like this, or do we turn and film like
First
this?
of all, rotate the phone, but it is hard to have it
horizontal.
horizontal when you're also taking cover.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
The screaming during an active shooting, not the most advisable thing, because then it kind of says, "Hey."
Oh, so
I'm
that's
right here.
why
Getting
people
killed.
don't scream. I get shot
You
right
get
away.
shot first. So, and there's another, the rule of the internet. You know the rule. The cameraman never dies.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something dangerous going on, start recording, you're going to make it. It's a rule of the internet. I don't make the rules. It just
That's like horror movies. They always kill the people that are having sex, or for some reason, the one black guy always ends up getting killed.
Yep.
Every Friday the 13th movie, Jason goes for the virgins that are having sex for the first time, and then for some reason, the African Americans. I have no idea.
So the rules
why.
of the story.
That's the rules of the story.
Well,
No virgins, no African Americans.
No, only them.
Oh, only that. Even worse, actually.
If you're the comic relief black guy who's having sex for the first time, double jeopardy applies, and you will actually survive the movie.
There was, now we're laughing, but this is a serious matter because there was a death. Don't laugh at the death.
Just we start
What
making
is
fun
wrong
of it.
with you? No, 33-year-old DeKalb County police officer, a former Marine, and recent police academy graduate, 33-year-old David Rose passed away. Was this a horror movie? Because he would have gone if it was a horror movie. He was fatally shot while responding to the shooting. Unfortunately, David Rose survived by his pregnant wife. That's horrific because now their child is going to grow up without a father. And 2 other children also. So 3 children, 1 wife, and this man has died. Were there any other people injured in the shooting?
No, he never even made it into the building. It seems like he was just kind of outside the CDC headquarters shooting at their offices. So the officer responded was the only person he encountered, and then I believe he fled into a CVS.
Yes, they
Where's
found
he-
him dead. He killed himself inside of a CVS across the street from the CDC headquarters. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has come out and spoke out against attacks, but now he's being attacked for the attacks. He condemned the attack, but faced criticism from CDC staff, unions, and former officials who say his anti-vaccine rhetoric helped foster a climate of hostility towards public healthcare workers. Here is the Secretary of, Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Doing nothing.
Robert,
Secretary of doing nothing. Go ahead.
you don't like RFK Jr. now.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that you do like? Because you don't like Trump anymore. You think he's compromised. You don't like RFK anymore for some reason. You don't like Cash. You don't like Pam Bondi. You don't like Dan Bongino. Is there anybody in the current administration that you are a fan of?
No, right now there's nobody.
Not a single one.
The heroes are dropping like flies.
How about Lidnick?
No, especially
Besant.
not Lutnick. No.
Nobody.
No.
All right.
RFK said, "We are deeply saddened by the tragic shooting at CDC's Atlanta campus that took the life of Officer David Rose. We stand with his wife and 3 children and the entire CDC family. We know how shaken our public health colleagues feel today. No one should face violence while working to protect the health of others. We are actively supporting CDC staff on the ground and across the agency. Public health workers show up every day with purpose, even in moments of grief and uncertainty. We honor their service, we stand with them, and we remain united in our mission to protect and improve the health of every American." Was that written by
Pause, that's what I was
ChatGPT
gonna
with the
say.
elongated hyphen?
It's called an M
What
dash.
a lazy.
M dash.
Lazy.
Wow, so he's not even gonna go. That really is lazy to not
Yeah.
even go in and because everybody knows if you see
Exactly.
the elongated or what's it called, M dash,
M dash.
M dash hyphen.
So,
just go in and
yeah.
replace it with the shortened
Yeah,
one.
What a
as
piece
a
of
long,
shit.
As a long time M-dash user myself, long before ChatGPT
Come on, really?
dropped.
You guys.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's
M-dash
it is a
user.
perfectly legitimate piece
What's
of
the
punctuation.
what's the purpose
I don't even know where
of
the
the
key
M
is on the
dash?
computer.
It's to switch ideas.
But it's also a more aggressive parenthetical.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're using bigger words
Okay.
that I don't understand
Let
to
me
explain
explain.
something stupid
So you know
that I
how
don't
if you're writing a
understand.
sentence, but you need to insert like a self-contained idea or
Sure.
a reference, you use the parentheses.
Yeah.
Which is almost like you're whispering it to the side.
That's exactly how
Yes.
I read it every
Yeah,
time.
the M dash is more of like it's
Strong.
more dramatic.
Yeah.
It's more it's less of a whisper and more of a completely changing tracks. Insert this, but aggressively with emphasis.
Wait, so are
and
you
then
saying
back
this
into it.
wasn't written with?
I'm saying
No, certainly it was.
I'm the strong indicator is that it was.
Has anybody called that out yet? Like, I can't believe
No,
we just.
but
That's the biggest scandal of all
ChatGPT
of this.
uses a lot of M dashes.
Now,
Though, and this is just one, so it's hard to make a
For
concrete
most
statement.
people,
How's nobody
especially-
called this
especially on the
out?
sentence that comma would have done. It would
Well,
have
the
done
comma
purpose.
always suffices for what the sem dash thing does, but how's nobody called this out? Yeah,
And
this
you don't
is,
want to
this
get
is
into
vile.
N dashes.
Huh? No, I don't want to get into M dashes. I want to talk
N
shit about
dashes are
RFK.
the worst.
Okay. Well,
No, it's real.
You mentioned ChatGPT, and I actually wanted to start digging into how the media is framing this shooting. They're saying that David Rose was White's father. I'm sorry, Rose was the officer. White is the shooter. White's father, Patrick Joseph White's father, identified him as the shooter and reported that he had become fixated on the COVID-19 vaccine, blaming it for his depression, suicidal thoughts, and physical illness. Neighbors also confirmed that White frequently voiced what they call anti-vaccine rhetoric. And I wanted to see, like, why would somebody be pissed off about the vaccine? After all, I mean, it's not like they forced it on everybody. It's not like they made you have a passport in order to go places. It's not like they made you have the vaccine in order to work. It's not like they lied to you about the efficacy of the vaccine or the side effects of the vaccine. Why would anybody be angry towards the CDC healthcare professionals or vaccine manufacturers after what we just went through with the COVID pandemic? So I actually went in and I asked ChatGPT, I goes, why ChatGPT? Why? Why was this guy so angry? And ChatGPT gave me a list of quotes and falsified information that the public was misled with by the government during the COVID pandemic. Number one, if you get vaccinated, you won't get COVID. That is what Joe Biden said in July of 2021, claiming vaccinated people, couldn't get COVID. However, an outbreak in Provincetown, Massachusetts, right after that speech, showed that 74% of the people who got infected with COVID-19 were fully vaccinated. So despite President Joe Biden's claims at the time that not being able to get it when you're fully vaccinated, 74% of people in one town got it while vaccinated. In March of 2021, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said vaccinated people do not carry the virus or get sick. However, later data showed vaccinated people could still get infected and pass it on to others, especially with the Delta and Omicron strains of the virus. They told us that the vaccine was 95% effective. Pfizer's clinical trials showed 95% relative risk reduction for infection during a short-term follow-up period. However, in absolute terms, the reduction in risk was actually less than 1% during the trial period. So it was actually, they told us 95% effective. It was actually 99% ineffective. They told us that the vaccine stops transmission. We know that that's not real. They also told us that there was no concern for myocarditis. However, by mid-2021, the CDC confirmed a link between the mRNA vaccines and myocarditis, mostly in young males after the second dose. So do any of you guys, I'm not just trying to justify the guy's actions by any means, but can you guys see why somebody might have some resentment, some anger towards these established figures who lied to us for so many years during the pandemic?
Absolutely. Think about what they did. Like, that's a crime against humanity. Like, they forced you to take something that they had no idea what it was going to do and had good reason to believe that it could hurt you. And they tried to financially disrupt your life. And, like, especially people with kids, like, it's stopping you from going to work, stopping you from going on transportation. So, you know, like, I think, like, this would be grounds for a class action lawsuit for everybody who got the thing. I mean, unfortunately, our government's already bankrupt as it is, but I'd be pissed, and I'd want to sue the government over it.
What are you more?
You can't, by the way. They put all.
Yeah,
the,
I know they did
put all the legal measures.
You're not in the '80s. The government you can't sue for a vaccine.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. The thing is, I taking it out on this guys, I don't think it's fair. I think whatever happened, because we're blaming people here. It's in all of us. All right. All of us were part of this charade. All right. Who stepped? You know, like nobody got in the way of them closing everything down.
Well, the pussification of mankind is the problem.
Like we used to fight revolutions over a 2% tax increase. All right. And nobody said nothing.
Well, Florida did stand their ground. We shut down shortly, but then Governor DeSantis said we have to reopen. I mean, look, I worked at a comedy club that shut down in March and opened back up in April because the owners were like, look, if we don't stay open, this business will close forever. And so the comics all performed for free, and people were coming out. They had more sellout shows during that time, during COVID, than they do now. Why? Because there was a demand for people to get out of the house. People were like, I need to do something. And there was never a liquor license revocation. I'm butchering that word.
Revocation.
Yeah, sure. There was no penalties, no fines for the business. The business said, hey, we got to operate. They were allowed to operate. The government wasn't happy about it, but they didn't shut them down. So there were states that stood up. Then you look at California, who were literally, they were arresting people for paddleboarding with the Coast Guard. They were filling the skate parks with sand so people couldn't go out and skateboard. There were two ways that this country handled COVID. There's the one side of the country that completely locked down, and there was the other side of the country that stood in defiance. Unfortunately, the other side were only two states, Texas and
But even the states that stood in
Florida.
defiance were not, you know, this full-on denying of the problem or saying, you know, the virus is not that concerning, don't get the vaccine. That didn't come out until much later. We were all locked down. Most of us either had to work from home or find new jobs in the state of Florida. My church, for example, had to meet in a rented Boca Black Box Theater. Rob, I believe you've been there before. We had to do church services out of that venue for like a year and a half because the entire state was mandated, like any non-school events cannot rent a school. That's where our church meets, in the cafeteria of a school. So we had to find a new place, and it's not a good venue for a church at a black box comedy club. I don't.
Whenever
Is
you wanna
it
start
even
going
a
to
good venue for comedy? I don't
Whenever you want
know.
to start going to a better church and give me
Yeah.
a call. Hey, but that's the thing. Like, and you were allowed to be outside in crowded places if you were protesting the right side of things.
Yeah,
right?
and even in Florida, you had to wear masks going to grocery stores for a very long time. Schools were shut down for a long time. It wasn't until what, like 2-3 years ago that they even made an official declaration about the efficacy of the vaccine.
That's why I'm so disgusted with Trump, though, because not only did he enable all that, but he hasn't done a single thing to strip power away from the federal government, which is the number one thing that we need to do to have a chance of preserving the country that we want to have. Like, the more power the federal government has, the more screwed we are. Like, that's why they were able to do what they did. He's only adding to that right now.
What were you guys more upset by? The lockdown efforts during COVID-19, forcing you to stay in your home, forcing you to not be able to leave and go outside, or was it the actual vaccine requirements that bother you more? The vaccine passports, the vaccine requirements to be employed. Like, for me, at first I thought I was always angry about the lockdown, but now I look back and I go, I agree with you. I don't really care about the lockdown. What I care about is the way that they use the lockdowns to then force us into these mandated vaccines, or told me, hey, even though you work from home for a radio station you've never stepped foot inside of that is in Pennsylvania and you're in Florida, Cumulus, they made me try and get the vaccine. And I said, no. My wife, who worked for Florida cancer specialists, who don't even have an actual headquarters in the state of Florida. There's no actual physical office in the state. My wife never met one of her coworkers in person, never stepped foot inside of a workplace. None of those happened, and they forced her to try and take the vaccine as well, and she told them to shove it as well. So we went from a dual income home to no money coming in during the pandemic, and luckily I was able to pivot, and I ended up linking up with PBD. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I look back on that, and for the longest time, I thought the lockdowns are what bothered me, but it was actually the vaccine. The way they did the rollout of the vaccine, the way they forced you to the vaccine, and then the way there were repercussions for people that didn't take the vaccine. So for you at home watching, let's run a poll if we can. We'll run a poll. What bothered you more about the COVID-19 pandemic? Was it the lockdowns or was it the vaccination?
Both of them, they have no rights to do it. Like, the fact they said you can't go out and work, you can't go out and run your business because we're deeming it unsafe for you to go out. Like, who the hell are you to say that? And then you give a $1,500 payment when, if somebody's making $10,000 a month from their business that they're running, you tell them they can't do it, but here's $1,500. Or somebody telling people they don't have to pay rent because you're telling them they can't work, and then all the landlords that lost property because of that.
Yeah,
like, who the hell is the government to say that?
People forget how bad it was in certain states. In Michigan, for example, that was when Gretchen Whitmer was ruling the state with an iron fist. Told people, hey, if you own property in the Upper Peninsula, you can't go. Of course, her husband got to go on a boating trip up there, but nobody else could. They were restricting the ability to buy seeds of people who wanted to grow their own food at home because the stores were shut down. Like, this was a full-on tyrannical push, and we are not seeing the long-term repercussions from that until, like, they're just starting now.
And
so which is worse?
Doing nothing about
which is worse,
it.
the vaccine or the lockdowns? They're two halves of the same thing. We're seeing the problems that kids are having. The generations that were forced to go remote learning and missed years of their education are just now starting to show the signs of the trauma that inflicted on them. The vaccines, again, everybody got the vaccine when they were forced to, or sometimes bribed with donuts and cheeseburgers right in New York.
These fries are so delicious.
And now we're seeing the health effects of that. But back to the shooting, because I know we got to round this out here. The shooting is the other long-term effect of this, because it is the consequence of complete erosion of institutional credibility. The CDC, that used to be a respected institution that was, tasked with keeping people healthy and preventing diseases, is now seen as the enemy who is responsible for all of this. So obviously this doesn't justify what the guy did. It's horrible. He took the life of a police officer who didn't even work for the CDC. So the Officer David Rose was a hero and should be remembered as such, and this guy should rest in piss for taking his life. But this is the consequence of what happens when the institutions we are told to trust completely turn around and stab us in the back for years. These things happen, and until they do something to address it,
stabbed us in the back with those vaccines. Yeah. Okay,
Question,
sorry, go ahead.
What are the
we
odds,
have to wrap up.
Yeah, what are the odds that this was an MK Ultra type of op that helps them silence people who try to criticize the vaccine or say anything negative about it, because they're like, yeah, look, see, this is what happens when you spread misinformation about the vaccine. You get people going out and trying to shoot up government officials.
I think the op is going to come in the media on the back end. Like, it's entirely possible.
I think
they grabbed this guy and brainwashed him, whatever. But there's a clear enough justification for him to do this all on his own by just being a crazy, angry person, which is more often than not who does these things anyway.
Yep.
And now the psyop, the twisting, the narrative shifting will come in the cover-up and the media coverage of, this is a consequence of vaccine misinformation. Yeah, the misinformation is what Rob listed off.
Yeah, well, you're already seeing it with them attacking RFK
Yeah.
and blaming him for his rhetoric against vaccines for being responsible for the shooting.
Yeah, I think some people in the government are very happy that this happened, to be honest.
All right, let's move along to Washington, D.C. Trump has federalized Washington, D.C. and taking over. President Trump declared a public safety emergency in D.C., placing the Metropolitan Police Department under federal control and deployed 800 National Guard troops to the area. Trump framed this as Liberation Day for the Capitol, citing recent violent crimes. Didn't we already have Liberation Day? I thought April. When he did the tariffs,
April.
that was supposed to be Liberation Day. How many Liberation Days do you get in 1 year?
As many as he
Oh, well,
wants.
we've had-
He's a
we've
fucking
had zero
president. What are we talking
real Liberation
about?
Days.
Go ahead.
No,
Sam.
we've had
Brandon.
precisely zero real Liberation Days. we've had a ton
Brandon,
of bullshit days.
tariffs. Are you kidding
What, the
me?
ones we just paused on China again for 90 days that aren't going to happen?
Do you see the results? We're
There are
already
what results?
Well, we're already getting money from
A
it.
drop in the bucket.
It's better than no drops in the bucket when you're thirsty.
What is the actual
No.
amount that's come in from
20
the tariff?
billion.
20
But
billion.
we increased the military budget from 800 billion to $1 trillion. So that's a net loss.
So less than 1/5 of the actual military budget increase is what we brought in with
Well,
tariffs.
Yeah.
Brandon, he's doing well with the tariff. He's doing
No, he's
well
not.
with. He's
A
doing
C.
great. He's
C
doing,
minus with the
Brandon,
tariffs.
He's doing great
C
with
minus.
the border.
No, he's not.
What do you mean?
He hasn't
What do you mean?
deported
Yesterday-
anybody. We deported like a couple 100,000 people.
Yeah, but have you seen the amount of people coming through? There's a 99% drop in migrants coming through the Darien Gap.
it's easy
they
when
say
there's
they have not
millions.
had a single person come over the border illegally. Now, I don't know how they can track this, but not a single person has had an encounter with customs border patrol officers, and then were let into the country. Whereas it was a 3,000% increase the year before when Joe Biden.
It's easy
per
to have,
day.
It's easy to have
Per
99%
day.
drop off when you have that many coming in.
Brandon-
Where are the deportations? We're not even on pace to have a
But
million deportations this
can
year.
you give him some credit?
No.
No credit.
No.
No. Oh my God.
No, he's disgusting.
Brandon,
Trump
we just,
is disgusting.
Yeah.
Why?
We just went to
Because
LA.
he's not dismantling anything that needs to be dismantled, like the whole systematic corruption and disgustingness of the government. Like he promised he was gonna get rid of. He hasn't touched it. He's only added to it, to be honest.
So
All right,
I mean,
you
w-
fucking do it.
would
Run
you
for
not-
president.
I will.
Would you
You
not
do it.
consider deploying the National Guard to restore order in the Capitol then part of that? Or is that...
No, that's bad.
Okay, we haven't even got into
Yeah,
story.
so Rob,
he
explain it to
pledged-
us.
okay, so-
We need to weaken federal power.
Okay, stop yelling. First of all,
do you mean?
What do you think? You yell louder, he's going to hear
Yeah,
it. Trump pledged to dismantle homeless encampments. Now, we were in D.C.
I like
in
that.
January for the inauguration, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, it was great watching all of the keyboard warriors yesterday on Facebook calling Trump a tyrant for deploying the National Guard and talking about how safe Washington, D.C. is. When I asked people who were posting that, when was the last time that you were in Washington, D.C.? No one could answer that question. I had a bunch of Florida hack comedians that I'm friends with on Facebook bitching about Trump federalizing troops in Washington, D.C. And the question was, when was the last time you went to D.C.? And they went, well, I haven't been in a few years. And I went, well, I went in January. And I can tell you, there are homeless people everywhere, literally blocks away from the White House. When you're walking down towards the White House, you're passing homeless encampments on the highway, just tents out there, and this is January. It
You
was
guys got attacked.
Remember, well, those were lefty lunatics, but yes,
You did get attacked.
Pat
yes or
got
no?
attacked. I
All right.
didn't.
Those should get ousted too.
But literally, you're talking about they canceled the outdoor inauguration because it was so freezingly cold up in D.C. that Trump didn't want people to be exposed to the elements. These people were living inside of tents in that environment. So it's not like it's going to get any better during the summertime. If these people can survive the wintertime, you think they're just going to flee somewhere else during the summer? No, they're still there. There are encampments everywhere of homeless people, just like L.A. We saw them when we were in L.A. So to sit here and go, well, Washington, D.C., I see the stats. D.C. leaders criticize the takeover, pointing to a 26% drop in violent crime, the lowest crime rate in 30 years. It doesn't solve the homelessness problem, and they're everywhere up there.
But also the violent crime problem, you can't take them at their word because what they do is they shift how they record the crimes. If you cannot trust the crime stats because they are being manipulated, then there's no reason to believe that that's actually happening. No, we reduced violent crime by 26%. Yeah, because you stopped prosecuting or even recording 26% of the violent crime. Like, the thing that inspired Trump to do this most recently, we saw big balls the guy from Doge,
Very
Yes.
suspicious.
get beaten to a pulp by a mob of teenagers on the street.
Very
which
suspicious.
happens all the time.
You don't believe that he was attacked?
I'm not saying I don't believe it, but it's super weird that the guy whose dad used to work for the KGB
Grandfather.
Yeah, and also was the guy who went viral for whatever reason, just because of his stupid nickname, is the guy who supposedly gets beaten up, and then supposedly after Elon Musk says, "Oh, we need to federalize DC," Trump federalizes DC. It's weird.
Okay, we gotta talk about this then. What do you believe
I was
would
not
be a
gonna
real
ask-
thing?
because
like,
nothing-
if everything is an op, then what actually happens?
Well, you know
what
what
do
the
you
problem,
believe in?
You know what the problem is that Trump doesn't seem to be in control of anything right now. I don't know who this person is, but he's not acting like the guy who ran for president. So
So you don't even believe that this is the same Trump that you voted for Trump, right?
Yeah.
Do you believe
If I
that the
said no.
person that we're watching right now is the same person that you voted for in November?
he's sure not acting like it. He's acting like somebody who's being held captive by somebody that he's terrified of, or somebody that was lying to us and misrepresenting himself the entire time that he was running for president. Because either he's stupid or he's controlled. Because what he's doing right now is not putting us in a good direction, not putting us on a good path to prosperity or freedom.
Marching the National Guard into the Capitol to restore order between street crime and homelessness seems to be well within the purview of the federal
For
government.
DC, yes, but
Yeah.
not for anywhere else. Because and he was starting to threaten that for other places.
But
Because
what,
DC
what
is-
is the alternative? We just talked about this on our last episode when we brought up Nayib Bukele in El Salvador. Would you rather live in an unlivable hellhole that is overrun by violent criminals, or have the military crack down on them and improve your quality of life?
Listen, I get the argument for fascism. That's what we're talking about here. And the problem with that is that it's not going to be Trump forever. Now, I don't trust Trump that much right now, but I definitely trust him more than, who the Democrat could be in the next election. Like, if Gavin Newsom comes in, we have this precedent set where we just start federalizing cities. What if it's a protest for how the election turned out, or a protest for how, like, the next vaccine, and then they start deploying the National Guard to break that up?
I mean, but they already do that. Like, this is not Trump setting a precedent.
So
It's
there's
something that has happened
There's
many
11 times in the history of the United States where the National Guard that I could find that the National Guard has been deployed. Starting in 1894 during the Pullman strike, it goes all the way from 63 when Kennedy had the National Guard used to remove Governor George Walish's blockade of Washington, the University of Alabama. That ensured that 2 black students could enroll. You go to the Detroit riots in 67, the Washington riots in 68, the LA riots in 92, Hurricane Katrina in 2005, all the way up to 2025, where it happened here today. Trump previously deployed the National Guard in 2020 in response to the George Floyd protest. So it's not even the first time that Trump has deployed the National Guard. And it's not even the first time that he's done it in Washington, D.C. That's why I'm so surprised by the outrage. Yeah, the city's a dump. It is. You walk around, you don't feel safe. I rode on the train. I was working for the Miami Dolphins. I was part of their radio team. They were playing at that time, no, they were the Commanders, but the radio announcers kept calling them the Redskins by accident. It was funny.
They should.
I rode the train at night because I wanted to go see DC at night. So I was like, I'm going to take the train in. I took it from the University of Maryland all the way down, and I've never before in my life felt more unsafe than riding that train at night by myself. I didn't see a single cop. There were several homeless, I would say homeless-ish people. I couldn't tell if they were homeless or not, but they were talking to themselves, and that's often an indicator of someone who doesn't have a home, also very dirty and smelled. Yeah. So when I see those 3 things, you're dirty, you smell, and you're talking to yourself, I go, hobo. That's a hobo right there. There were tons of them. So to sit here and make the argument that Washington, D.C. is nice, it's not. No. Neither is San Francisco. And Trump's point, he wants to not only get rid of the hobos, he also wants to get rid of the graffiti, start repairing infrastructure across the city, tightening local criminal laws, clearing encampments. It's crazy to me that the left looks at this and goes, look at him being a Nazi, trying to clean up the city. I don't make the argument from the other side. How do they even have an argument that what he's doing is wrong?
So I agree with that. I agree that we should make homeless people go somewhere else, because I don't even like to see that shit in Florida. When I see homeless people on the sidewalk, I'm like, oh, they need to do something about that. So I'm with you there, and I'm with it with clearing up the garbage and stuff. But the reason that DC is so screwed up is because of the giant wealth gap. So this goes way back to when they started segregating these neighborhoods, and that's a whole systematic thing we don't need to get into. But the giant wealth gap in DC is like nowhere else. Like it has the highest poverty rate of people making less than $20,000 a year, and the highest percentage of people making over $200,000 a year because of all the money that gets pumped into the lobbyists and everything. So that prices people out of certain neighborhoods and pushes them to certain sections. So like every measurable category of failure for a city is the highest in DC out of everywhere else. Like it's worse than California. Even homelessness per capita blows California out of the water. So all I'm saying is that I don't think that this is going to fundamentally change the problem forever. It's not going to fix the problem to deploy a couple hundred National Guard agents. Like this is a deeper systematic economic problem.
Well, Brandon, if you weren't such a negative Nancy about what President Trump is doing,
I'm just not a kiss ass.
You would have known that last week he signed the Ending Crime and Disorder in American Streets
Oh,
Act.
wow. Nice.
No, what do you mean, wow, nice? Do you know what the act
You know how
has
many
in it?
executive orders he signed so far that hasn't gone into action?
All right, it says encouraging involuntary commitment to mental institutions. That's very important. So they can go like, okay, this homeless guy is going in.
Yeah, bring back the psych wards.
What I mean?
Bring-
yes,
bring back
that's
the
what
psych
he's
wards.
doing. So what
Bring back the psych wards?
Yeah, he's bringing back the psych wards.
How many psych wards is he opening up?
Well, it's inside the bill. I don't have the number here, but it's inside the bill.
I'll
He's gonna
believe
bring
it
them
when I
back.
see it.
I do believe.
No,
it.
you won't. I can guarantee
Yeah,
you will
I
not.
would agree with that. You know, it's crazy. I was thinking about it. The last time I went to D.C. before the last time we were there was in 2007 or 8. I was in a fraternity, and part of the pledge. You were in a fraternity as
Yeah.
well, right? So they had field trips where you'd go with your pledge brothers as a bonding experience. And the spring semester would always go to DC, and the fall semester would always take a trip to New York. And what they did is they got 2 of the pledge brothers to stay sober, and the other 8 or 10 got wasted. And what we did was the sober ones drove the wasted ones for the weekend all the way up to DC. We went down to DC and we check into it couldn't have been more than
Wait,
$100.
Which group were you in?
I was in the sober. At that point, I know it was a long time ago. So believe me, if I'm the sober one, just imagine where the rest of those guys are today. We're driving. We get to a hotel. Couldn't have been more than $100 a night hotel. It was in the shittiest part of town. And a guy comes up as we park the car, and he comes. We had 2 cars. There was 4 guys in one car, 4 guys in another. The guy comes up to the car and goes, "Hey, for like $20 a night, I can watch your car and make sure nobody breaks into it." And we were like, "No, we're good, thank you." We went to go check in. As we're checking in, we hear the car alarms going off. The guy that told us if we gave him $20 to make sure our cars wouldn't get broken into, broke into the cars because we want to give him the $20. That city has not been a nice place in my entire lifetime that I can remember. So if he's going to deploy the National Guard, deploy him. Let him actually try and make the area a better area.
You know, fun fact, what makes DC unique, by the way, too, local law enforcement can't change any laws unless Congress approves of it. So if local law enforcement wants to do a new policy, it has to go through Congress, get approved by Congress for them to implement it. So unique to any other city in that way. So Congress is basically in charge of DC.
Well, that makes perfect. It's the federal district.
Yeah.
It's not a state. It's not a city assigned to any other state.
That's what they sign.
It is by design, which is why all the campaigns, like you saw Muriel Bowser, the mayor, who I hate for personal reasons as well as political ones, came out and said, this is why we're so big on the push for DC statehood. They want to make DC its own separate state so that they can do all this stuff to make it more like state governments. It's not supposed to be a state. It's not supposed to be assigned to any state. It is supposed to be an independent federal district.
Well,
so the Trump deploying federal military resources and federal law enforcement to restore order to a federal district makes perfect sense.
I want to tie this into Seth Rich and his murder in just a second, but you have clips of what did you have there? You had Trump?
This was just Trump declaring, it's Liberation Day.
Liberation Day in D.C. We are taking our capital back. 3 exclamation marks, or is that 4? I can always tell how serious he is by the amount of exclamation
3.
marks.
That's
3.
Yeah,
So
Washington,
not as
D.C. will be
serious.
liberated today. Crime, savagery, filth, and scum will disappear. So, I mean, it's brilliant
I
positioning
will make our
on
capital great again.
brilliant
The
positioning on
days-
his part, because, if you're against this, what are you, I'm the pro-crime, savagery, filth, and scum party now.
Okay, I quickly fixed the border. Is that where he should have used the M hyphen? The
Yeah,
M dash?
That's how you know it's not ChatGPT.
0 illegals in the last 3 months. You know it's not ChatGPT just by the way he types.
Yep.
All capitals in weird places. 0 illegals in the last 3 months. DC is next. I love this. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. What do you have next?
Then there's back to Big
And
Balls
Brandon,
getting
you
the
think this
snot
is fake?
beat out of
Yeah, I
him.
don't know. That looks kind of like Hollywood, guys.
I mean, there is a lot of blood. I feel bad the guy was attacked, but was he Was he shirtless when he got attacked? How do you
No,
get all
I think
that?
that's a shirt right there.
He took the shirt off, I believe,
For dramatic
to try to
effect.
staunch the bleeding in his
come
face.
on, guy.
And so all that blood
Brandon,
dripped
I
down
have a
from his
picture
face?
of you bleeding shirtless.
Yeah,
He got-
that's
he got his
real.
face
Ah,
stomped
that's
on.
real.
Yeah.
Like, do you have it? He got his nose broken and had a mild concussion. Like, you have any idea how much?
We get that
facial
Well,
verified.
okay,
injuries
when
like
you
that
when
bleed?
you break your nose, it's a lot of
You
blood.
always take your shirt off
And
to cover your
because-
nose. It's-
I want to go see him.
If you want to know more about this, Amy and I did a whole thing where we broke down all this over on her show, Dangerous Conversations. But like, when you know who it was who attacked him, it was a group of like between 8 and 10 black teenagers. What is the move anytime a group like that attacks somebody? Knock them to the ground, stomp on their head.
Yeah.
You see that 100% of the time. That's what happened to him. So like, the amount of blood that comes out, like, you underestimate how much you bleed when you get your face stomped on by 8 to 10 people.
Oh yeah, any cuts in your head? Like well, never mind.
What do you have next?
And then we'll get into these were the people protesting the.
Did you have a
thing.
video of Trump though? I thought I
yeah,
saw
we,
a
we do.
video.
We do have a video of
Yeah,
Trump.
but I want to hear him speak.
Okay,
Go ahead,
Well-
King.
there we go.
And worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before.
So you can see he can cite the exact statutes that authorize this. Like, anyone trying to say this is against the law is unfortunately incorrect. You can agree or disagree with the decision, whatever, but you can't say it's illegal. It's well within his authority to do this.
The one thing I saw everybody, again, the keyboard warriors going off about was he at one point said he's giving the National Guard the authority to do whatever the hell they want to do. And that's what everybody was quoting yesterday, was doing whatever the hell they want to do.
that's for
What
dramatic-
about my rights? Yeah, Trump
Dramatic
talks
effect.
off the cuff
Man,
all the time.
I know National Guardsmen. I have family who have been National Guardsmen. What National Guardsmen want to do is eat pizza and watch Netflix out of sight of their commanding officer and do as little as possible when they are deployed. Because these are guys who enlist basically for college and a paycheck. Now, of course, you know, they're military, so respect and thank them for their service. But these are not guys who are like desperate to go out and roam the streets,
Chris
shooting
Cappy,
people out of a
I think he
helicopter.
was in the National Guard.
Yeah, like there are some
And he
real
did 2
great
tours in
guys in the
there.
National Guard, but they are not going to DC in anticipation of, man, I can't wait to implement a tyrannical crackdown. Like, they will do what they are told to do and abide by the military wisdom of, if you don't see a commanding officer and they can't tell you to do something, you don't
Pizza
have to do it.
Netflix. Yeah.
Question: what's more likely between these two things, that this is a distraction from the Epstein stuff, or the Epstein stuff is a distraction from this? Because I've heard
I
both.
don't think the Epstein stuff would be a distraction from this. If
No, this
anything,
is real.
no,
Yeah.
no, it could be fake though.
What, the DC's a hellhole?
No, that they're trying to implement like some type of martial law federalization type of thing.
Well, I
and
saw the
testing it out.
National Guards deployed yesterday. So you're telling me that that footage was not real?
No, I'm not saying that was fake. I'm saying that
They're distracting us with Epstein to try to cover up the
Like they
federalization of all our
front-ran it.
cities. And two
That'd
things,
be such a...
two things
okay.
can be true at once.
But that one
Like,
is not true.
Hey, to distract you...
Don't assume anything.
Epstein has been going on since 2006.
To distract you from my fascist takeover, I'm going to pretend to be a
Washington,
pedophile.
DC in 2025.
call me a child molester, as long as it doesn't make you pay attention to me being a fascist.
I've heard both theories the last couple of days. That's where
I
people
think
are
all,
at.
all the
But-
things can be true.
That's what the
Can
people
I-
are. That's what's on the people's minds today.
Look, Rob made a good point that throughout his whole adult life, it's never been nice in DC. All right, some of my favorite punk bands are from DC.
I don't think it's ever been nice there before
No.
once.
The thing is, the wage disparity, like the inequality, as the left likes to say it,
Wealth gap.
Yeah, the wealth gap. You have lobby guys that they're making $300 to like $1 million a year. You have people that work in governments that are making, like legally they're making 200,000, but we know their spreads. And then you have all the help, people that clean bathrooms, people that do all the lower level jobs, and that's why you get such great punk bands like the Bad Brains, Minor Threat, teen idols.
That's why you get great punk bands?
Yeah, they produce some of the greatest punk bands in the world, and it's rough, and it's always gonna be rough. It's been rough since day one. Like, I like the spirit that Trump has, but it's not gonna make it nice.
No, I at least remember a time where New York Times was safe. It was in the 90s after Giuliani cleaned all the trash out. I remember a time where Philadelphia was safe, and my mother and I when I had to go to doctor's appointments, we wouldn't go to New York. Our specialists were in Philly. That's because we were South Jersey. It was quicker to go there than to go to New York. We were safe to walk around the streets of Philadelphia. I do not feel that way today. Look at what's going on in Kensington, where you see people walking around bent over on fentanyl like zombies, totally zonked out. These big democratic cities are no longer safe. So do I have a problem with Trump doing everything he can within his power that's legal to make the streets safer? Yeah, why would you be against that? Provide an argument. Oh, I don't like Trump. He's a dictator. Okay, well, guess what? Democracy wasn't working in those cities. Maybe we need a little dictator, a little legal dictator.
I'm with you. There's some good things about fascism. Like, look, like what Bukele's doing is great, and it's very good if that person's going to be in power for a long time. Like, I'm all for Trump doing this to every single city. But the scary thing is the precedent that sets for the next person. Like if it's Newsom next, then that could take a whole different turn.
But that's the difference in that you can say one thing is good and another thing is bad without having to acknowledge the comparison between them. Like it is good when good people do good things for good reasons, and it is bad when bad people do bad things for bad reasons. It is good when Trump uses the military to crack down on street crime in the capital and potentially restore order to our other major cities. It is bad if potential future President Gavin Newsom marches the National Guard into your city and locks you up if you protest the outcome of a dubious election. You know they do it.
And it's setting the precedent.
But Newsom doesn't need the precedent because it's already legal for the president to do this. It's already happened, as Rob said, like at least 11 times, to say nothing of all the times the state governors have called up their own National Guard.
The law is a funny thing that you can manipulate. You could take this and say, okay, it's dangerous for the well-being of people that there's people out there protesting the outcome of an election or protesting the demand to take a vaccine. So, the law is a funny thing like that where you don't actually have to follow it as it is literally.
Yeah, well, protests against suspicious election outcomes can be
looked
good.
At the same way as homeless people.
Yes, they can. They can be good or they can be bad. Rioting is a bad thing. Even for those of us who truly believe that January 6th was like a Fed op from top to bottom, it was not a good thing for people to riot and break stuff in the Capitol. But people tend to forget that when Trump won in 2016, there was a giant Democrat riot in D.C. That's where we got a lot of the footage of, the people, like the woman in the vest screaming at the sky. That's the liberal reaction gif. That's where that comes from. People were rioting in the Capitol, or the capital city at least. Nobody talks about it. And then people protested the 2020 election nonviolently. There shouldn't be a crackdown on that.
So one of the things I wanted to get into here was okay, we're going to make D.C. safer. That's great. Let's talk about some of the things that happened in D.C. prior to Trump federalizing it. Specifically, one instance, July 10th of 2016. Do you guys know what happened on July 10th of 2016?
I mean, I do because I'm looking at the video, but
27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich was shot in the back twice while walking home in the Bloomingdale neighborhood of Washington, D.C. There are people on the internet who have claimed that Seth Rich was the source of DNC emails, and I'll show you how this ties into Trump federalizing D.C. in just a second. There were people on the internet claiming that Rich was the source of the DNC email leaked to WikiLeaks and that he was killed as part of a cover-up of the WikiLeaks emails. If you forget the WikiLeaks emails, they were internal emails and documents from the Democratic Party, from the DNC, from early 2015 to May of 2016, the communications in those emails apparently showed favoritism or bias towards Hillary Clinton during the primary against Bernie Sanders. That's why people say to this day that the DNC fucked Bernie out of the 2016 nomination, again in 2020, again in 2024. And at this point, he said, I'll meet the press this weekend. He's too old to run. He's not going to try again. However, the murder happened just weeks before WikiLeaks began releasing the DNC emails, but WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange made public comments about Seth Rich's murder during this interview, which took place sometime in 2014, if we could play that clip.
Donald Trump has had a disastrous few weeks. If you look at the polls, he needs a miracle. In the American political lexicon, there's such a thing as the October surprise. The stuff that you're sitting on, is an October surprise in there?
We
Do
never
you
sit
even
on
know
material.
what you're sitting on?
WikiLeaks never sits on material. Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
That was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
no, there's no finding. So
What
that's
are you
the
suggesting?
sort of.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
We don't comment on who our sources
but
are.
why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States, and that our sources are, our sources face serious risks. That's why they come to us, so we can protect their anonymity.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
Well, that others have suggested that. We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich. I think it is a concerning situation. There's not a conclusion yet. We wouldn't be willing to state a conclusion, but we are concerned about it. And more importantly, a variety of WikiLeaks sources are concerned when that kind of thing happens.
Okay, so the reason I bring this up, because you see what's going on with the Epstein files. According to reports that came out earlier this morning, James Comer said that Bill Clinton is the focus of the Epstein investigation. Then you look at Russiagate, and very high-level officials with Obama working with Hillary Clinton are implicated in that. There seems to be a focus on bringing these people from the left to justice. So I started going down this rabbit hole of, could there be a way that Donald Trump could have federalized Washington, D.C., I know it's a stretch, Washington, D.C., in an effort to reopen the investigation? Because to this day, here we are more than 12 years later, there still has not been any arrests in the Seth Rich murder. Officially, the case remains open. More accurately, it's unsolved and cold. Could Trump federalizing the National Guard into D.C. and taking over the Metropolitan Police Department be a way for him to reopen the investigation into Seth Rich's murder? So I asked ChatGPT, would Trump deploying the National Guard in any way have any effect in any situation on reopening the investigation into Seth Rich's murder? ChatGPT said, Trump deployed the National Guard to Washington, D.C., would not by itself reopen the Seth Rich murder investigation. It listed jurisdiction over the case and said that Seth Rich's murder is a local homicide case handled by the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. Even if Trump federalizes the D.C. Guard or takes over MPD, reopening a closed or cold case would still require law enforcement leadership from the MPD or FBI to make that decision. Well, Trump already has.
All right, Cash, come on.
Trump already has the FBI in his pocket, but he didn't have the MPD until. So I asked the following question. What has Trump put in charge of, or who has Trump put in charge of overseeing the MPD? It said that Trump has put someone in charge of overseeing the Metropolitan Police Department. I said, who was that person? It said that person is General Pam Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi, as well as DEA Administrator Terry Cole. So I followed up with this question. Would those people be able to reopen the case into Seth Rich's murder? And it said yes. So yes, this could be a way of reopening the investigation into Seth Rich's murder. I don't think that it is, but I wanted to bring this to you guys. Do you guys think there's any way?
Here's the thing.
Wow.
So if they want to redeem themselves, they're damaged, if not destroyed, reputation right now. If they actually go through with the Clinton thing and the Seth Rich thing, and then there's another guy that was equal situation to Seth Rich during that same time period, that's a road to redemption for me if they actually do anything against Bill Clinton or Bill Barr, because those guys right there, like those are like part of the nucleus of this thing that's hijacked the government for the last 40 years. Starting in the 80s, Iran-Contra, this network of CIA people like Bill Barr, Bill Clinton, and Epstein have hijacked the government, and if they're serious about going after them, then that's a serious war on the deep state. But if it's just a show, then it's going to blow over quickly.
All right, you mentioned war. We can shift. Oh, go ahead. What did you want to say?
No, back to that theory. Like I've seen Brandon's shirt less stretched than that. But hey,
Not today.
Not today. But that's interesting. That's very like. How do you come up with this?
It's maybe
He's
not
a creative guy. Give him
maybe not the
credit.
point, but probably at least a helpful
Be a
side bonus.
Yes, it'd be great if, by the way, he makes DC great and we find out who murdered Seth Rich. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
I could see why people on the left wouldn't want Trump to be doing this.
And Clinton goes
specifically higher up in the DNC.
The
Clinton
biggest
goes
fear,
down.
biggest fear on the left, I think, with this whole thing is that he's going to do it and it's going to work. That he is going to have DC cleaned up in like a month, because just like with Bukele and El Salvador, they're going to see this was not only possible but extremely easy to do, and all that was lacking was the simple force of will to get it done. Which means they are all complicit in allowing this to happen for decades and decades in the capital and all our biggest cities. So hopefully Trump actually brings the war to them. Now, to kick it back over to you, speaking of bringing the war to people.
Yes, so Trump is, it looks like we are maybe kind of going to war with Mexico. Not really,
Hopefully.
but according to reports, Trump has secretly, then how do I know? If it was secret, it's in this paper that you wrote. How did you know?
Well,
Secret.
Secret documents revealed to the New York Times.
Okay, secretly
So, do
authorized.
we trust the New York Times?
No.
I don't know, but they are
They have great leakers.
They have the best leaks.
Well, yes, but they did just get caught with the photo of the kid that had some type of medical condition. They claimed he was being starved by Israel. Netanyahu
was that the Times or was that
New York Times?
Yeah, okay.
He said, and then now Netanyahu saying that he's going to sue the New York
Oh,
Times.
well,
for
Netanyahu-
I thought they were good
misrepresenting.
friends.
Yes.
Netanyahu's the most
Weren't
trustworthy
they?
guy.
The Schollenbergers?
We'll get to APAC and all of your deep
No,
ties
New York,
in a minute.
New York Times.
So President Trump has secretly authorized the Pentagon to use military force against Latin American drug cartels designated as foreign terrorist organizations. The administration says the move is intended to disrupt cartel command structures, halt fentanyl and cocaine trafficking into the United States, and treat these groups as national security threats on par with armed terrorist organizations. Brandon, do you hate this move as well?
No, I love it. I've been waiting for this.
Wait a minute. So you just said he has done nothing, but here is something.
I
On
have-
the same episode, you're like, he's done
Well,
nothing.
I'll-
Here's
I'll
something
give-
he has
I've been
done.
waiting for
I'll
this the
give
entire
Brandon's
time.
Brandon credit on this point because he said he was going to do it. He's talked about doing it. He hasn't actually done it yet, so
Yeah.
like don't get too congratulatory.
Well,
but
that
it's
might
nice
be-
to see the action taken.
He said, "I'm going to wipe the cartel off the face of the earth." Him and Tom Homan said that, and we've been holding our breath. I've been getting, tired of holding my breath. Okay, so here we go. Maybe this is something.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum rejected any possibility of U.S. troops operating on Mexican soil, calling sovereignty a red line and stressed the directive was not part of any agreement. Here is Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico.
We cooperate, we collaborate, but there will be no invasion. That is discarded, absolutely discarded. In addition, they have expressed it in all calls, that it is not allowed or part of any agreement, much less. When they have come to raise it, we have always said no, that we can collaborate in another way.
Wait, is this the lady whose political opponents were decapitated? I think like a few dozen of them.
Well, I mean, anybody that runs for office in Mexico, you either end up in office or you end up decapitated. Those
Yes.
are the two options. There is no lost. Yeah, I just lost and I went back to running at Dairy Queen. It's always, nope, I'm dead now. And they took my head and they put it on top of a car.
All right. Like, I don't know where people are getting, like they're getting up in their high horse. Like, you run these operations everywhere. Like, if someone steps out of line in Afghanistan, you send a team of special forces, you take him out, and they're back home for lunch. Like, Mexico's no different than Afghanistan, Iraq.
easier.
Like I'm pretty sure Gaddafi was like, yeah, we will under no circumstance allow the United States to invade our country, and then we had him
That's it.
beaten and sodomized to death by a mob and created the tropical Mediterranean paradise that is Libya.
Hillary's like, we came, we saw, he died.
Yeah.
The thing is that the policies that this lady and the previous government had, they had this policy, abrazos no balazos, that meaning like hugs, not bullets. And
Yeah, the cartel's going to go, you know what? They're right. This whole time we've been doing it violently. We should have just done it
Hey, Holmes,
compassionately.
why am I shooting at you when I could just give you a hug?
So
un besito, por favor.
there's two things working at the same time. First, the socialist disgusting Mexican government, the worst they ever. No, they always had shit governments. They can't govern themselves. So let's be real. It should be another state. Great
Last time
food,
Mexico
though.
had a good government, it was called Spain.
Yeah, Spain was. I'm just not joking. All right, great people, great food, but still Mexico. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I hate blaming the U.S. a little bit, but I'm gonna have to do it. The way they went around killing the heads of the cartels, it actually made everything worse. Because that old generation cartel guys, they had rules. Like, you don't kill tourists. When you decapitate someone, you put it on their turf, not in the middle of the street. Like, they have basic, decency rules about, like killing people.
Well, every organization has had that. Like the mob in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they didn't want to be involved in drugs. That was the code of the mob, not to be involved in that shit. But then as those guys aged out, got killed, went to jail, then younger people started coming up and saw more money was being made through drugs, started pushing drugs and prostitution. So that exists in all of these organized crimes cultures.
And
Even dirtier. In fact, what happened was the CIA said, no, you actually have to sell drugs for us. Otherwise, we're going to wipe you off the face of the earth. So, well, you want to be friends or you want to be enemies?
Well, you hijacked Humberto's point.
I'm sorry.
Humberto was getting to a point.
So this new generation is absolutely ruthless. They're driven by social media. So like they just want to one up the rival gang. They have deep ties and connections.
So it's like keeping up with the Joneses with murder. I want to be more extreme than you were, and I want to capture that shit and put it online.
But
put
there's
it
intel
online.
connections with them too, though.
What?
I think they're working for intelligence agencies too, which is another layer of difficulty for this.
Allegedly, they were trained by our guys.
Well, it's not. It's
Who? The cartels?
The cartel.
they sell drugs for the global elites.
Like, matter of fact, that the lady president that I don't like at all.
Shine bomber.
Yeah. I don't know how she got elected.
Yeah.
She's
Yes,
like
you
yes, I do not know how she got
Yes,
elected.
It's
right?
a huge mystery.
She is suing the government of the United States for guns being sold to Mexico. So there's something there. I was listening to some interviews of the guys that work for the anti-narco police there, and they're way over their heads. Like anyone that comes in the force, they have like 6 months of to live before. That's why they wear masks, because they track them. So it's not looking good for Mexico. This might be positive.
Wait a minute. So in Mexico, when the federal agents or the federales or the police are going after the cartels, they cover their faces so they can't be identified,
Yes.
and there be retribution
Yes.
against them by the cartels.
They
Do leftist, unhinged liberals in Mexico speak out against the police from covering their faces to arrest the drug cartels?
none that I
No.
have heard.
So why in our country, when when ICE agents try and cover their faces to keep anonymous as they're going through and capturing people who are also breaking laws, why does the left in our country come to their defense, whereas the left in Mexico shuts their fucking faces when it comes to them covering their faces?
This is
Sarlos
so
is actually
bad there
retarded.
that they have their identity protected and they wear masks. And sometimes guys inside the force, they get corrupted, or because they offer you ungodly amounts of money to flip on them. They will give the identity of one of the teammates and he will end up killed next day.
So the cops will flip, like, all right, Brandon and I are both cops, but Brandon's working with the cartel.
Yeah.
Brandon gives them my identity, then Brandon gets paid by the cartel, and I
And they
get
will
whacked.
kill you and all your family.
Wow.
And
How
your
you
dog.
feel, Brandon?
Rich.
Wow. I can tell. Look at your stutter
and the
sheet.
fact that doesn't just happen with, the police. Every government official at every level has a possibility of being on the cartel take.
Like, these guys have tanks.
It runs all the way up to the very top, which is why I have said before, and I will say again, the pacification and annexation of the failed narco state of Mexico is the only war the United States should be interested in fighting.
1,000%.
If you go back to the Mexican-American War, I believe it was James K. Polk who was president right after that. He had this broad, sweeping plan for, okay, we won the war, we're now taking all of Mexico, right? Like, you can Google, like, Polk Mexico map. He wanted to annex basically all the way down to the Yucatan Peninsula and then take Cuba and the Dominican Republic as well, just for the heck of it. He was, very expansionist. But the point was, this is a hostile, adversarial nation that we have just beaten in war. We now get to take all their stuff.
Yeah.
Which is why it was really funny back during, the big ICE protests in California a few months ago, where all the people were saying, Mexicans have been here the entire time. Mexicans are the indigenous Californians, and you guys are the colonizers. Like, we took this land from you when you lost a war. Like, I'm sorry, fight harder.
Yeah.
Like, you do better.
Same thing with Florida and the Indians.
The fact you got to keep Mexico City means that we were merciful.
Actually, geographically, it will bring all our immigration bills down. Because if you look at Mexico, it goes very thin.
Think
on the
how much
bottom.
easier the border would be to control
so easy for us
if it
to
was
enforce
Panama.
border.
Yeah, if it was the width of the Panama
We
Canal,
will need to take,
rather than
we will need to take over half of Guatemala, but it will be a very small choke point. You need like, it'd be so economical.
Yeah.
All right, we only have 30 minutes left. We have 3 more topics, so we got to get through these quickly. Just some stats when it actually comes to the fentanyl crisis here in the United States of America. It's very interesting how ChatGPT makes you work for information. So the deaths per year here in the United States, I asked ChatGPT to provide me with stats for the past 5 years of fentanyl deaths or overdose deaths in the United States. 2019, 36,359 people. 2020, it almost doubles, 56,516 people. 2021, 70,601 people. 2022, 73,654 people. 2023, 72,776 people. So between 2019 and 2023, it almost doubled the amount of fentanyl deaths here in the United States from 36,000 to 72,000. I asked ChatGPT, could the open border be the cause for this? ChatGPT said the southern border is a major entry point for illicit fentanyl. However, over 85 to 90% of traffickers caught are U.S. citizens, not migrants crossing illegally. Then I asked, okay, where does the fentanyl come in from? And it again said the southern border. It then said traffickers often use U.S. citizens or legal visa holders to smuggle drugs. So it tells me in the same sentence, yes, their border, they can be coming through the border, not through migrants, but because people, it doesn't even make sense. You're telling me 85% to 95% of the traffickers are U.S. citizens, but then the traffickers are being used, their traffickers are using U.S. Do you get understand my point?
Yeah.
I think I'm having a stroke.
Gaslight
I'm not getting
GPT.
into it. What is
It's
it?
like gaslighting GPT.
Gaslighting
Gaslight
GPT.
GPT. I mean,
because it's lying to me.
Yeah, because it's trying to say, no, it's not because of the southern border. It's because of U.S. citizens, but it's ignoring that's coming from the southern border.
With U.S. citizens acting on behalf of the traffickers.
Yeah, so if it
that
wasn't-
was the point I was trying to
Right,
get
so if it
to.
wasn't for it
And
coming from the
unable to
southern
make.
border, the U.S. citizens who are selling it wouldn't be able to get it.
And of course, Canada is also a major entry point for these things, but we're dealing with Canada in separate ways with, all the tariffs Trump threatened against them. Same thing against Mexico, but you can't work with the Mexican government to stop this because not only are they on the take, but if they get off the take, they're all killed.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in Canada. So you crack down on Mexico very differently. And then once we've dealt with both Canada and Mexico, either by tariffing and helping to, drone strike cartel compounds or by just annexing them, manifest destiny goes north to south now, then we can deal with the other underlying problem, which is China, which is how it all keeps getting here.
Does Canada even have any gangs? I've never heard of anything dangerous coming from Canada. Like, is there
Well, this is a dangerous thing that came from Canada. Rob, you want to tee this one
Nice
up for us?
segue.
Yes. So, all right. Well, we have, like I said, we have about 30 minutes left, and we have 3 topics. So I'll get to
10
you guys.
per.
What do you guys want to cover? Do you want to do the MK Ultra settlement in Canada? Do you guys want to do Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz against AIPAC, or do you want to do the turn of the media on its own as liberals start to eat liberals for talking
Let's
to
do
conservatives?
MK Ultra and APAC.
Okay.
I want to do the media one.
Okay.
All right, I vote media as well, so we'll split it. MK Ultra, we're skipping APAC this time. We'll do. Don't get so upset. All right, this is out of Canada. Let me find this paper here. There was a lawsuit. Here it is. Quebec Superior Court has approved a class action lawsuit against McGill University, the Royal Victoria Hospital, and the federal government of Canada over what they call the Montreal experiments. They took place from 1948 to 1964 at the Allen Memorial Institute. These experiments were linked to CIA's MK Ultra mind control program. The patients in the Canadian studies underwent what's called depatterning, erasing thoughts via drug-induced comas, heavy sedatives, extreme electroshock, and sensory deprivation. That is literally the video editing bay here at Valuetainment. They are heavily sedated. They get electroshocked by the computers, and then they're sensory deprived in the windowless room in which they edit. Then they get repatterned with looped negative and positive audio messages. That reel was great, Deli. That reel sucked, Deli. Wow, we are doing mind control here at Valuetainment. We didn't even know.
Wow.
Played up to 500,000 times. Could you imagine just over and over again? That real sucked, Deli. That real sucked, Deli. That real sucked, Deli. Over and over and over and over again.
Wow.
Well, clearly, they've never been in a group chat with all the people we work with of trying to coordinate how to get a video title.
Well, there's a separate group chat where they talk about us MK Ultra-ing them. Believe me, I've seen it. The lawsuit seeks damages for the victims. Victims and families allege the experiments were conducted without informed consent, leaving many patients permanently impaired, unable to recognize loved ones, or stripped of basic life skills. Do you guys give any credence to these mind control programs? I have a list of people who may have been subjected to mind control in the past. There's when it comes to trying to track the actual victims of mind control tactics by the U.S. government, it is a little difficult, except for the ones who became known for other things. And we'll get to those. But do you guys give any credence to mind control? Do you guys believe that the United States government or the Canadian governments have had the ability to change people's minds or control their brains?
Yeah, there's not a single doubt in my mind that
Not
we
a
do
single.
this.
So you're at 100%.
Yeah, 100 for this.
Okay.
It's like one of the few things in life that I am 100% sure of.
Yeah, I'm slightly more skeptical of whether it works. Of like if they can fully like implant thoughts and mind control people remotely. But certainly they've been trying. Like all the disclosures, everything we know about this, the fact that this case just won in court where they can now sue for damages. That that doesn't happen if there's a case that didn't exist.
No, that's the whole
This
point
is a
of
real
them
thing.
going through that process
Yeah.
was to establish if there's
And-
any basis for the actual
And
suit.
Canada's involvement in this is ongoing. Like this is a long running thing up until like recently. So you remember that guy Harley Pasternak, who was like the celebrity trainer and handler?
Yes,
for Kanye West.
yes.
Amy
I knew that name
Winehouse,
sounded familiar.
Ellen Page, all these other celebrities that like very famously either died of drug overdoses or had huge mental health crises. He's the guy who Kanye exposed in tweets was like, you better act nice and sit down and talk to me or I'm going to medicate you back to zombie land and then you'll never see your kids again. Harley Pasternak worked for the modern iteration of this same kind of thing in Canada, like basically helping to plan out Canadian MK Ultra experiments.
Wow, so it goes beyond just
Like this is not confined to like
Governments.
the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
This is-
celebrities,
This is like
music.
recent as well.
Well, it would explain. It is weird when you list the client list of Pasternak, and it's Elliot Page, it's Kanye. Who else did you name?
Amy Winehouse. was
Amy
the number
Winehouse died of a
one.
drug overdose. Ellen Page, now Elliot Page. Kanye West has lost his mind, and all his teeth are platinum now.
Or is he more clear than ever before? No,
well,
I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Judging by social media,
Did he huff enough nitrous to undo the programming they did to him? I don't know.
But
But-
all right, so it's funny that you tie in that guy. I have ties into MK Ultra and the CIA's brainwashing program, Charles Manson. They don't say that he was actually a subject of MK Ultra, but he had unusually lenient treatment from law enforcement despite multiple parole violations in the 60s. He was a regular visitor of the Haight Ashbury Free Medical Clinic in San Francisco, where Dr. David Smith and others conducted LSD research on subjects. The clinic had connections to federal drug research grants, and one researcher there, who Vinny has talked about on this podcast, it's the same
Jolly?
person, Dr. Louis Jolly West, who was the person that allegedly spoke with Jack Rubenstein,
I think
also
it's
known as
confirmed.
Jack Ruby, who then made Jack Ruby lose his mind
Yeah.
while in confinement
Right
after
after
he killed
visiting him.
Kennedy. He had ties to MK Ultra. Ted Kaczynski was a confirmed subject in a Harvard psychological study led by Harvard professor Henry A. Murray. Murray worked for the Office of Strategic Services, which is the CIA's predecessor before World War II. He worked on wartime psychological warfare efforts. And then Timothy McVeigh. There's a great interview that Tucker Carlson just did with a researcher. Her name escapes me at this point, but it's all about Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bombing, and the fact that the people who rented the Ryder truck to Timothy McVeigh claim that Timothy McVeigh came that day with an accomplice, and 24 people who were at the Alfred Murrah building on the day that the explosion happened also testified to seeing a second accomplice with Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh was a decorated U.S. Army veteran who served in the Gulf War. He was possibly exposed to experimental drugs or psychological operations during his military service. There are claims that he told fellow inmates that he was programmed or drugged while in the Army. There are theories that link him to Project Monarch, which is a spin-off of MK Ultra that happened after MK Ultra was shut down, this beginning in the mid-'80s. 80s. There's also Whitey Bulger, Donald Freeze, Saran. So there's multiple famous people that you've heard their names before because of the crimes that they've been implicated in, but their ties to these intelligence mind control programs are somewhat sketchy, but there's also a loose paper trail that connects them.
I believe all of it.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
It's okay. It's so weird the things that you don't find true and the things that you absolutely 100% do
It's
find.
just about what makes sense, Rob.
Yeah.
It's
So
like,
let me raise this question. Do you believe that with these people, Timothy McVeigh, Ted Kaczynski, Charles Manson, all these others who committed all these horrible crimes,
yep.
was the criminal activity, the violence, the murders, was that the result of the programming? Were they programmed to do that? Or were they programmed to do something else and we only know about them because they washed out and then went on to do things because they were made crazy?
No, they were built specifically to do the crimes because there's nothing more profitable in the world than crime, and the CIA wants more money than it has access to, so they create these criminals so that they could kind of have a degree of separation between themselves and the crime.
Okay, so I'm curious. How do the Manson murders make money for the CIA?
Well, the Manson murders, that one I think was to what was it? It was like to create like fear about serial killers or something like that. But Whitey Bulger makes a ton of sense because that's drug trafficking, obviously.
Yeah, those are different eras, different applications. So like some of them might be, but what they say about Ted Kaczynski is, he was brainwashed, he went through all the programming, but then he was like kind of a washout. Like he didn't work. They didn't program him to do anything. He just left, turned on society, went completely nuts in a cabin in the woods by himself, and then started doing his own thing as a result of the way they messed with him.
But it creates terror.
It creates terror. So I get what you're saying, but like, are these people doing what they're programmed to do? Or is this when the programming goes wrong and they're actually being programmed to do something else?
I think it's possible that it could go wrong sometimes. Like Kaczynski, I guess you could make the case that either it went wrong or that was part of the plan because it was beneficial to them regardless for a crazy guy to go out into the woods and start mailing bombs to random places because, that creates the demand for people to say, like, oh, we need more government oversight. We need more government protection. Help us, government, please. But also, yeah, I could see – I kind of – see what Kaczynski saw like years ago now with
well, you read the manifesto and he talks about technology and the threat that
it's
it
happening
poses
now.
to humanity.
It's very much
happening. And you read it and I see how people on Reddit can be like, hey, Uncle Ted was right. I'm not going to go so far as to like, hey, I also agree with Osama bin Laden's letter towards America because that's a weird like channel to navigate because you can agree with Ted Kaczynski's theories, not with his actions.
Right.
There are people that agree with Osama bin Laden's theories as well as his actions.
Or his theories.
But, yeah, his theories are like really dumb.
Osama bin Laden's?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ted Kaczynski's were prophetic.
Like
Here's
I'm sorry,
the threat
Osama
of
bin Laden like
technology.
a 7 foot tall goat herder living in a cave. Like this was not.
He was on dialysis.
He actually
survivor.
Osama bin Bush.
He actually came from a very rich
He came
family.
from money. That's what I'm
Yeah, and
saying.
he was
His family was kicked out of Saudi Arabia in the
but he was
80s
not-
because
He's
of his
still there.
activity.
He's still there.
But in the
And he worked with the CIA too.
What I've always read is that Osama bin Laden's family was kicked out of Saudi Arabia because Osama bin Laden was smuggling guns into Saudi Arabia in the 80s, and they kicked his family out. And that was what they told us after 9/11 when we started researching Osama bin Laden's ties to the Saudi family was that, well, he's not in Saudi Arabia. He was kicked out in the 80s for gun smuggling.
Well, he worked closely with Big Daddy Bush when Bush was in the CIA, and then he got a first-class flight, him and his family, out of America.
Well,
after
he
9/11.
he died.
Well, like his family did.
Yes, and his and there was a brother. Was it his brother? I forget. I've read so much 9/11 stuff.
He was with George
George
Bush
W.
Sr.
Bush. Yeah,
at a
George
Carlisle
H.
event.
W. Bush at the Carlisle event, and the odds of those two people, it was like 1 in a trillion that
Yeah.
those two people involved in the 9/11 attacks would be meeting in Washington, D.C. as 9/11 unfolded.
But anyway, my point is that bin Laden's letter to America is not the same thing as Kaczynski's industrialized society and its future. Like these were not written by men of, equal intellectual capacity. But because bin Laden's letter to America said all like the right anti-America, anti-Western, anti-colonialism stuff that the left loves, that's why idiots on
picked it up.
TikTok went nuts for it a few years ago.
Your thoughts, because we got to wrap up on
Yeah.
this topic and move to media. But go ahead.
I mean, I'm not 100% on anything, but this makes a lot of sense. It gives me Guantanamo vibes, all right? Because there's plenty of universities here in America, plenty of dumb students doing drugs. But I'm guessing they started there in Canada because we don't have a constitution. So they ramped it up a little bit. Like we have Guantanamo that is not literally in the United States, but it's run by the United States. I guess they were running the worst experiments there in Canada.
Canada's a little bit dumber and more impressionable than Americans.
Yeah,
In general terms.
Yeah, and, like the fact that it's CIA linked. Like this was not the Canadian government doing its own version.
Do I think they're going
This
to
was
win?
us running
do I think
the
they're going to
experiments
win
in
the
Canada.
lawsuit? No chance.
So it was like black ops mind control by the United States government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
In
because
Canada.
we work so
Yep.
closely with the Canadians on.
So do
things
you
like
think
this.
that that'll be uncovered in this lawsuit? As the lawsuit progresses, could we actually discover ties back to the United States intelligence
Well, I mean,
services
even that
conducting
headline
these
said
experiments?
CIA linked. Like it's known that these experiments were done in coordination with the American side of things. I don't know what the lawsuit's going to reveal. If they're able to do anything, it's probably sue the institution and sue maybe the guy's estate for damages. They will probably not be able to go after the government. There will probably even be some attempt to settle it out of court so it doesn't go to discovery. Something to keep an eye on, but it's not like this is going to blow the lid off of, oh, it turns out all the MK Ultra stuff worked and they've been mind controlling legions of assassins and criminals for the last 60 plus years. I don't think we're going to get that, but I mean, hopefully justice can be done for the people who
These
got
are the things I was
their
hoping
brains
for
scrambled.
declassification.
Yeah.
This is the stuff when you're talking about your disappointment in Trump. My disappointment in Trump is more or less this stuff, which he did not campaign on, did not promise, did not run on. But these are the things that I wanted information on. I wanted to know who was behind 9/11. Was it really bin Laden? What actually happened during the mind control experiments of the 60s and 70s, the Philadelphia experiment?
Yeah.
Like, actually tell us what our government has been up to, and we have not gotten
Have you ever
that.
seen The Family Jewels?
No.
So that was a big declassification by the CIA when this director came in. I forgot his name. It was like the most progressive director of the CIA that ever happened. He did this thing called the Family Jewels release, where he did a huge declassification of a lot of things the CIA was up to, and that's how we know a lot of what we know today about the CIA, including MK Ultra, Operation Chaos, and
Operation Mockingbird.
yeah, and he confirmed that a lot of their stuff either got deleted or it was what's called a ears only basis. So you weren't even allowed to write the stuff down. It was just like verbally communicating what was happening with the thing. So, I mean, yeah, that guy is the reason we know a lot of the stuff that we know today. So we need like a Family Jewels release 2.0.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
the ears only thing is very good business advice. Don't write it down. Don't send an email. Go straight up to the person. If you're going to say something that could be iffy, just ears only.
And in relationships too.
Yep.
What? I'm sorry, say that
And in
again.
relationships
Yeah.
too.
Pagan?
In
And in
relationships
relationships.
too.
Oh, in relationships too. I was like, pagan relationships too. Where are we going? Okay.
no.
Sex is the worst.
Final topic. I'm sorry, I'm deaf.
Yeah.
Final topic. This is it. And by the way, if you are just joining us for the first time and you have not done so, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Unusual Suspects. We are live every Tuesday at 6
We
p.m.
didn't acknowledge that at the top. We are on a different day.
Yes. Normally you see us Wednesdays. Today's Tuesday, and moving forward, it'll be Tuesdays at 6.
Yes.
Okay, final story, Howard Stern. Now, I am a huge Howard Stern fan, or was, no longer am, not because I don't think he's funny. I believe he's still as witty as he was. He has just gone too far woke for me, and I'll get into it. But Howard Stern's $500 million 5-year Sirius XM contract that was signed in 2020 is set to expire later this year, and rumors suggest that that Sirius XM is not looking to renew the king of all media. If you are unfamiliar, Howard Stern became huge in the late 80s, early 90s. He was one of the first syndicated radio hosts across the country. In fact, he was really the first video podcaster that was out there. Howard started broadcasting a video version of his show on what was called the Channel 9 show. This is back in the early 90s. And then he made a switch to E, where E would take segments of his radio show, they would film it, and then they'd release it days later. It was the first person to ever do this, and it's today's version of the video podcast is just the reincarnation and the adaptation of technology to what Stern was doing in the 90s. So if you're watching this now, understand that you may not like Howard Stern today because of his comments after COVID, his bashing of Donald Trump, his voicing of disdain for anti-vaxxers. But the guy that the reason that this even exists right now is in part due to Howard Stern.
Oh, 100%.
He was the greatest person to ever sit behind a microphone. That changed around 2010, 11, 12, after some of the co-hosts of the show dropped off. Jackie the Joke Man Martling left in 2001. Artie Lang tried to kill himself in 2009. Howard then decided to go with a skeleton crew of just him, Robin, and Fred. No comedic personality on the show. The show started to, in my opinion, it started to fall off. That's when I stopped listening. However, that being said, I was still a daily listener. I would still subscribe to Sirius. I would listen in the background as I was doing things. But you guys have to understand, my love for Howard Stern, I started in radio in 2003 because of him. I would listen to him on the bus on the way to school every day. I would get done and watch the E! Show at night. I started when Napster first came about. People were uploading versions of the Howard Stern Show. I would go and download them. Pirate Bay came along. Do you guys remember Pirate Bay? Yeah. I started downloading episodes of Stern. I loved Howard Stern so much. I would listen to the live broadcast in the morning, then download the show on Pirate Bay and re-listen to it in the afternoon. I went from a guy who was listening to 6 to 8 hours of Howard Stern on a daily basis to 0% after COVID. Because after COVID, Howard Stern lost his mind. He locked himself in his home. To this day, we're 5 years later, he still doesn't go out in public. If he does, it's with a select few, usually Jimmy Kimmel, for some reason, Jennifer Aniston, these elites that he used to make fun of. And that's when Howard fell off for me. And I know, Humberto, you were a fan. Howard went from being the guy on the red carpet that made fun of people on the red carpet to now being one of the guys that wants to be so much involved in the red carpet process that he'll boost the celebrity, the careers of these people that he used to openly mock just so he can be part of their club. And for me, that's when I was like, I'm not interested.
Can I add something? And we also need to give credit to his fans. All right, like them uploading the first show bits and clips and segments were uploaded by the fans to the internet. Napster, Pirate Bay, and some of the greatest moments were fan created. And the thing is, the content that they were making right there and then was so good that people were just want to get it out, they want to get it out everywhere.
How long were his shows?
4 hours, 4.5 hours. He used to go from 6 a.m. to around 10:30, 11 a.m. And even to this day, people still put clips up on YouTube. That's how I consume Howard now, is old clips from, pre-2009-ish on YouTube. And there's a whole archive of people that are uploading it. But this is what happens when you become out of touch. Howard Stern used to be super popular among people because he talked about a few things. His wife. When he was married to his first wife, Allison, he'd bitch and moan about her on the air. It was things that guys could relate to. I couldn't at 13, but my dad, who was driving in the car with me, could relate to. But then Howard got divorced, started dating a supermodel, started making hundreds of millions of dollars as opposed to a few $1 million. He lost touch with the everyday person, and that's what made him special. He was this witty, in my mind, Howard Stern's one of the greatest comedians of all time. I can't think of anybody that could go off the cuff like he could for 4.5 hours, and everything he said was funny. He went from being that guy to being so out of touch and so unrelatable that people like me who followed him and started doing what I do today because I wanted to follow in his footsteps, I don't even want to listen to the show anymore. And it's because of this wokeism that has spread, not just with Howard, but it has spread throughout late night, and it has spread throughout the fans of late night. We sit here and criticize the late night hosts for not having any Republicans on their shows. In fact, can you go to the next slide so I can show you? ABC's The View has had 102 liberal guests in 2025 without a single conservative on their platform. That's not the only one. Breitbart had a headline. Is there another one that I gave you, or is that it? Colbert's left-wing late show becomes therapy session for liberals. This came out from the New York Post, where they talked about the amount of liberals that Stephen Colbert had. He had, let's see, how many was it? Hold on.
Was it 72 to 1?
I believe it. That's the 63 liberal guests to no conservatives. And then, all right, so we sit here and we criticize these guys for doing these exact policy, or exactly what they're doing. Only talking to liberal voices. Pat made a challenge on the PBD podcast. Hey, invite a conservative on. Interview a celebrity that's on the conservative side. So Jimmy Fallon does. Jimmy Fallon has Greg Gutfeld, right now currently the king of late night. He is beating every other late night host in the ratings. Fallon has him on his program, and guess what happens? The viewers turn on Jimmy Fallon. So instead of embracing that, hey, you had this conservative on, it may not be what we want to hear, but okay, sure, we'll entertain the idea. No, people started saying, I've never liked Fallon at all. I like him even less now. Fallon has always been a yes man to everyone. The guy has almost zero convictions. Another person on Reddit wrote, I fucking loathe Fallon, and this is a prime example as to why. Some questioned Fallon giving a platform to a Fox News figure, calling Gutfeld part of the tinderbox that is MAGA. But do you guys blame these left-leaning hosts for not having people from the right on? Because look at how their fans react. They're creating content for a very segmented portion of the population, a very small audience. And now they're risking turning that audience off altogether by having these conservatives on. So if you are these guys, what do you do at this point? Do you invite conservatives on and risk losing your audience in hopes that you'll attract a more mainstream audience?
Didn't. Like, the numbers are in, and the show with Gutfeld, that he doesn't get enough credit. Like, Adam would say, he's not funny or whatever. Like, I think what Gutfeld is doing, he's consistent. I think he's very witty. I love his books. He's a very good writer. And he's killing it, all right? And on that show, it had a 57% increase in viewership, reaching 1.7 million viewers. They never had this rating in the last few months.
No, when you look at Fox News compared to all the other cable media news outlets, at one point there was a stat for the month of July where Fox News Digital beat every other mainstream media outlet combined on their digital end. And Fox News continues to have week after week after week of rating victories over every other news outlet. So maybe this is an attempt by these news outlets to try and make a subtle change, but even if they're doing it, their audience is rejecting it. So for me, it's like, do I blame these guys for broadcasting in an echo chamber? At a certain point, it's like, hey, do I want to keep the small audience that I have or have no audience at all to risk trying to get a bigger audience?
Well, yeah, no, I think you have to be like completely yourself, though. Like, just speak to people you're interested in. Like, that's what Rogan does. He doesn't give a shit about what the audience says. He isn't a prisoner to the audience. And I think that when you constantly analyze the numbers and look at it like that and say, like, oh, well, I upset them, you make yourself a prisoner to the audience. But if you just let it rip and talk to who you're interested in, I think that you end up with like a natural, reasonable pool of people.
Well, yeah, but what do they say about Rogan because of that? They call Rogan a right-wing podcaster.
They used to call him a left-wing podcaster.
Exactly. But, like, because Rogan is popular with the crowd that says, yeah, I want to hear from people of all ideologies and all persuasions.
Which is probably 80% of people.
Exactly. But this is the thing. We experience this as well. We all are in the process of helping identify possible guests for the PBD podcast and our other shows at Valuetainment. People like Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper and Keith Olbermann, I think, all basically have standing invitations to come on PBD podcast whenever.
Anytime.
Every single one of them says no. And a lot of these big name celebrities were free, open, please come. They don't want to.
To their own financial detriment. Because you got to think, Joy Reid right now, I saw an article about how Joy Reid is actually making good money, maybe possibly better money on Substack than she was making on MSNBC. But for her to come on our program, sure, you're not going to win the entire audience over, but even if you can convert just 20% of our audience, you're talking about yesterday's episode has around 400,000 views. It'll probably have between 550 to 600,000 views. If you convert just 20% of that, you're talking about thousands of dollars in income, and they won't come and do it. Keith Olbermann, same thing. We've not only reached out to Keith Olbermann, we've reached out to the people who produce his podcast to see if he'd come on to promote his podcast. Nothing in return. I don't know if it's because they're scared. I don't know if it's just because they think we're that evil because we're in the middle.
All of the above. Because in their minds, they don't need us. And you see this from TV anchors to celebrities to politicians. Kamala Harris did not scramble to do any podcast appearances until the very end when they saw it was working for Trump. And then where did she go?
No, she didn't go anywhere.
No, she didn't go anywhere. She had Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper come to her.
Well, and then
she had all those demands of Rogan of like, you come to me.
Yeah, and he said
it's
no.
a 1 hour interview. We get
And then she did
screening.
the Subway Series thing, and the guy said it was so awful, her responses, that he didn't want to put it out because he didn't want to be labeled the reason why Kamala Harris lost the election.
Are you going to get into the business side of this, Rob?
Quickly, because we have 2 minutes.
Quickly, okay. Howard Stern again, Sirius XM. He was the biggest driver of that business model that I think is dying right now. You know, I might be wrong. It's dying right now. We saw the UFC switching, like they got a $7 billion
With Paramount.
with Paramount. They're gonna open that up. And then like the radio is cooked. It's absolutely cooked. They're not getting any sponsors.
I can speak to that. I just had a conversation with people from iHeartMedia 3 weeks ago where the woman on the phone was telling me we don't know what to do because the company is going bankrupt. So, and you're talking about the largest radio company in the United States. It's over. It's done.
And what happens with the Fallons of the world and all these guys? When you were forced to watch them, because there was 3 options on TV, you were forced to watch whatever they were presenting. The model kind of made sense, because there wasn't any more offerings. But now you can watch anything that you like from anywhere. You can watch a Japanese game show or Rob ranting on this beautiful show. There's no contest. Like, people are not gonna tune in, and they need to widen their offering if they want to have a chance.
But the problem is they are trying to widen their offering, and their audience is turning on, which is interesting.
They're not turning. Like this show, I told you, it did 57% better than any.
Oh, I thought you meant Greg Gutfeld's show went up.
No.
Fallon went up.
Gutfeld on Fallon
went
did
up.
57% better than any other show the last month.
And you even look at the way that the right has embraced. We talked about South Park, right? Charlie Kirk embracing the
humor, masturbating.
Yeah,
you can't even call it a parody or
that's what I was trying.
character,
That's what I'm looking
but
for.
it's not, because if you watch that episode where they had, I think it was Cartman. I don't really watch South Park.
A master
like,
debater.
Like he becomes a master debater who is like doing all the Charlie Kirk stuff. Cartman as Charlie Kirk is now Charlie Kirk's Twitter profile
and
picture.
Kristi Noem also liked the portrayal they did of her.
But that's the
we
thing,
can laugh at
yeah,
those
you
things,
can't-
but the
but you
left
can't-
gets offended by it.
You can't even call it a parody, because all they had Cartman doing was repeating Charlie Kirk's exact points, basically word for word.
He's the wrong person to emulate Charlie Kirk, by the way.
They don't know how to make fun of right wingers, because all they do is just state their positions.
I think they were very effective.
Yeah.
And the only joke, I don't know if you remember the fish sticks joke with Kanye.
Yeah.
The joke was the master debating. Like, I'm master debating, that was a joke. And then I think it was funny. I give them a break.
Yeah, but of course they also have, Trump humping Satan. And
Dude, that's comedy.
JD Vance is like a weird little midget.
I'm
It's like,
very protective over
it's
comedy.
whatever. It's funny, but we can say that's funny. But at the same time, South Park never
Made fun of
parodied Biden, Obama, or Harris. They were all on the show, but they were all taken relatively seriously in their appearance on the show. So that, again, they don't know how to represent the opposite point, because all they think is, oh, those people are so objectively evil, we'll just use their own words and people will see why they're bad. But then all you accidentally do is make, through the mouthpiece of Cartman, a bunch of left-wing South Park fans get exposed to the fairly reasonable middle-of-the-road points that Charlie Kirk espouses when he debates college students.
Awesome.
But
Well,
he's
listen,
afraid to debate Fuentes.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about that on the APAC special that we'll do next week with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and everybody else. Guys, if you, it's time for us to wrap. We have to go. If, again, this is your first time watching and you've not done so already, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. The love that you guys give us means that the show will continue to go on. So if we see an increase in subscribers, we'll keep doing this. If we don't, then the company's probably going to pull the plug. So if you're enjoying this, subscribe, comment, share with friends, and make sure you join us next Tuesday and every Tuesday moving forward, 6 p.m. right here on the Unusual Suspects channel. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks to the crew in the back for switching, for all the lighting and all that stuff. Great job to you guys. Thank you, Connor, for producing. Thank you guys for joining,
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you next Tuesday right here on Unusual Suspects, 6 p.m. Take care. Bye-bye.
Fire up.